Welcome to the inaugural episode of The Lion's Den. I am your host, Andrew, with your co-host, Drew. We are two lifelong friends who are also lifelong Lions fans, and we love talking Lions, so we thought we'd just start this and to just start talking about the Lions. I mean, we do it all the time anyway, so we thought we might as well just start this. Um, so we're coming off of week 11. The Lions beat down on the Jaguars, 52 to 6. It wasn't really a close game. Jared Goff had a crazy good bounce back game after five interceptions. He was 24 for 29 for 412 yards, four touchdowns, and had a perfect 158.3 passer rating. You got any thoughts about that, Drew, about his performance?
Good comeback game. I mean, he needed it after a five interception performance. I mean, those five interceptions, they're pretty questionable in their legitimacy, but at the end of the day, you throw five interceptions, it's going to play a huge effect on your mind. So I think that's a game that Goff needed back. Or and his connection with State Brown ended up showing in that game. 11 for 11, back on track with his top target. I was really encouraged by that game because again, when Goff gets in those modes where he's just flustered, I think just me as a Lions fan, sometimes I can like question him whenever he's going to throw it downfield. Sometimes I don't know if it's going to be in the right hands or not. When he gets in those moods.
Yeah,
So I was really happy to see him bounce back in this game, finally find himself again.
yeah, I agree. And I think another thing that I commend him for that he got better, that he's gotten better at through his Lions career is that he doesn't you can't if he's throwing interceptions or turning the ball over, he doesn't change his strategy. Like you would not be able to tell that he just came off a five interception game with the way he was playing in this game. He was firing them into tight windows, and even at the end of the Texans game, I mean, like was he led that game winning drive, no fear. I don't think the Lions ever they're like they were never wanted to run the ball because Goff was throwing bad. Like they just kept on going back to him. 21 rushing yards as well. I think that's what Dan Campbell said in the post game speech.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's something that people joke about, but I actually think could be a really important thing. I feel like I've been frustrated with him that he just refuses to run. Like if he has a wide open first down and can gain 5 yards, he doesn't do it. And now he's been doing it a little more this season. He was really doing it in this game, and I think that's actually an important thing, as dumb as it sounds, because he's might be the most immobile quarterback in the
Yeah,
NFL.
to start off this game, he ended up rolling out right and throwing it to Zylstra off of a very pressure filled situation. That's where like for Goff, I think sometimes he just settles for sack, and that's where I get he's a quarterback who is not as mobile, but it's good to see him get in those situations, to see him get out of it, and he can just lead our team in that way now. And I'm really encouraged by that performance.
Yeah, I agree. And then, like you said, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he had a career high in receiving yards. I'm pretty sure he had 11 targets, right, and 11 receptions. The streak is back on with him and Goff. 161 yards and
Yep,
two touchdowns.
yep.
Um, there's a bunch of guys that we could highlight in this game. I mean, no one had a bad game. Everyone had a good game, I think. One guy that I would like to highlight is Kirby Joseph. He got another interception. He now is in the league lead by himself for interceptions. He was tied with Xavier McKinney. Now he's in the league lead with seven. And he has a 91.3 PFF grade, which is the best amongst safeties in the NFL, which is just insane. I know we were talking about this yesterday, texting about this, but I mean, he wasn't very good last season. He was pretty good as a rookie last year, not so great. And now, I mean,
I
I
mean, I
sent you
think he
that,
was just
that
inconsistent.
yeah, I think, and yeah, I think a big thing is the corners too. I mean, he had to compensate for Cam Sutton and Kindle Vildor and Jerry Jacobs, who at any time they could be chasing the receiver downfield like 10 yards behind them. So I think that's a big
Mm-hmm.
thing. I mean, Carlton Davis has been awesome. Terry Arnold's been up and down, but I think we can all agree that he's better than any of the outside corners we had last year, and I think that's a product of
Yeah.
that. And yeah. And then another thing is Zadarius Smith made his debut, and he had a half sack, I believe. I think he shared it with Jack Campbell. There was a noticeable
Yep.
difference in the pass rush this game, in my opinion. I know it was not against a not great offensive line, but You could just tell that. I mean, he's the best edge rusher on the team already. And yeah, I'm not sure if you have anything to add.
Yes. Well, I just think with Zadarius Smith, I think he offers. He was saying in his interview, talking to the press when he first got here, he was saying that like he wasn't going to start playing against Houston because I mean he needed that bye week, which again I really think Campbell has a grip on his players for that.
Yeah,
But he also said that they're starting to push some stuff on him to memorize pass rushes and different schemes that they can use him in. And I think that was on almost half display, and they were
yeah,
doing really well with it.
hmm yeah,
So as we're going to get into this Colts game later, I think we can, I think one of my things is that we're going to see this pass rush fully come in.
yeah, yeah. And like, I mean, he wanted to play against the Texans. Campbell is the one who said that he didn't want to play, or he didn't want him to play because he's not a
Yeah.
player. And I think that, I mean, that shows it says a lot about Campbell. I know that players have said that about him to like, like like if the Lions lost that game against the Texans and like they don't play Zadarius Smith, I think a lot of people are like, maybe you should have played him. I know it was Cleveland's bye week and stuff, but either way, I mean, I'm never gonna pass on an opportunity to commend Dan Campbell. So yeah. Uh, all right, and now I'm gonna list some
Yeah.
crazy stats because there were some crazy stats in this game or just like in this
Oh
stretch.
yeah.
First off, the Lions have played 10 games this season. They're 9-1. This is the fourth game where they've had more touchdowns and incompletions, which is absolutely absurd. I mean, like, what an absurd stat.
It's funny to me because like you grow up and we grew up in the Stafford era, and Stafford sometimes would get on those streaks where he would just let it loose, and you know he would have games where he would throw 50% very often. But now with Goff, this year's Goff is just unbelievable to the point where it's almost normal to see this.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's absurd.
yeah. I
I,
100.
I I think that I think the national media needs to give this a little more
Yeah,
attention, to be honest.
I completely agree with Goff. I mean, like the amount of people that are saying like, oh, how many how many quarterbacks can you place in this offense and them still be good? And I think that's a fair discussion. Like they're probably still a playoff team with a ton of different quarterbacks, but I don't know if there's one quarterback in the NFL, and that includes Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, who could operate this offense better. Yeah, they could operate as good,
Yeah,
maybe, but I mean, like Goff is just his accuracy is just absolutely insane this year.
yeah. And Nick Wright saying that he's a
A
civilian at
civilian, yeah,
quarterback. You know what? I mean, he plays as best as he possibly can in this offense,
yeah,
and he is maximizing this
yeah,
potential. They are building this team around him, and I think that's what makes him such a great quarterback. And it's not that he's a civilian; it's just he's one of those guys who can deliver in those
yeah.
situations if
I
you put
agree.
the guys around him.
Yeah, I agree, and like I feel like that's a good way to gauge who knows the NFL and who doesn't is their opinion on Jared Goff. Because like it's fine if you don't think Goff is top five. I don't think he's top five. I think he's top 10. But
Yeah,
like, I mean, I'm not even being a biased like Lions fan. Like, I was skeptical of Goff even after that 2022, the end of the 2022 season where they went on that run and beat the Packers in Lambeau. Like, I wasn't 100% sold on him then, and I'm here to say that like I was fine with the contract. I would tell the truth if I wasn't fine with that contract. I mean, he's an awesome quarterback, especially in this offense. I mean, this offense is just perfect for him. All right.
yeah,
Another
for sure.
stat, another stat is that I'm going to read this off Twitter because I saw it and I don't want to mess it up. But Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery, and Amon-Ra St. Brown have all scored a touchdown in the same game for the Lions for the eighth time. That is the most times that has happened to a trio of teammates in NFL history. Just another absurd. They played a season and a half together. It's absolutely
Dude,
crazy.
this core is just I love this core. I love this team,
Yeah.
man. And like you can tell that they've already accepted each other as almost brothers, as
Yeah.
family. And
hmm
I think this is what makes this team so special.
Yeah. Just an absurd stat that you almost can't believe. Like I thought it was like, oh, in the same season, I saw they showed it after or in the post game on the broadcast, and I saw it, and I was like, that's just absolutely insane. In history, and they played a season and a half together, and they already
And
broke that.
it shows you what Ben Johnson is drawing up for these guys
Yeah,
too. I mean,
yeah,
it's not like this offense is only applicable or can be applicable to every offense in the league. I mean, you got these pieces now where you can build this offense around them. And
yeah,
I think that's what has made honestly, I think this is what this made this offense so terrific.
yeah. Another one is that the Lions have 3 victories of 38 plus points this season. The rest of the NFL has none. Another just absolutely absurd. Like these stats never stop. Like they just what the Lions just absolutely annihilate inferior opponents. It's crazy. Like I know every good team should do this, but the Lions just take it to a whole nother level. Yeah,
Mhm.
and now
Yeah. Again, we've never seen a team this dominant before, and I think that's what's so awesome about this team.
yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah, and now they're Super Bowl favorites, just with
Yeah.
Buffalo beating Kansas City, which is I mean it has to be the first time and for sure the first time in my lifetime, probably our parents' lifetimes too, that the Lions have been Super Bowl favorites. Um, in the DVOA rankings, which is
Yeah, I
defensive
think I've seen
value.
it's never been done.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. DVOA rankings, that is defensive value over average or adjusted. I can't remember exactly what it stands for, but it's an advanced metric that basically measures strength of a team. The Lions have the second ranked offense in the NFL, the second ranked defense, and the first ranked special teams. So just completely dominant. And then this is the stat that just completely blew me away. They have DVOA stats back through 1979. Through the first 10 games of the season, the 2024 Lions are the third greatest team of all time in terms of DVOA, only behind the 2007 Patriots, who I mean, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but that's the greatest team ever assembled. Like, probably. I mean, one of the
Yeah,
most dominant for
that's
sure.
murderers row.
Yes. And then the 1991 Washington Redskins, who Lions fans might be familiar with because they absolutely obliterated the Lions in the NFC Championship in 1991 and obliterated Buffalo in the Super Bowl. They were ahead of
Yeah.
teams. They're ahead of teams such as the 1998 Broncos, the 1985 Bears, just like absolutely crazy. The 2018 Chiefs, the team that took the league by storm when Mahomes made his debut that season. Just absolutely absurd.
But you know what? Those teams, like the '91 team for the Redskins. I mean, what do you find in common with that team and in this Alliance team?
I think they're well balanced. I mean,
Their offensive line. I
yeah,
mean, I'm like
yeah. I mean,
they have hogs.
yeah, Mark Rippon was a quarterback, and he was okay. I mean, he was not anywhere near a Hall of Famer, but I mean, that team was just so well-rounded and completely dominant on all facets that it reminds me of this team. I mean, Jared Goff isn't a Hall of Fame quarterback, most likely. I mean, but he just like does what he needs to do, and the team is just so good that actually that's a good point because I think there are a lot of comparisons to draw to that '91 Redskins team. All right, on to some not so great news. Um, Alex Anzalone breaks his forearm. I believe I think it was right after the half started, the second half started. He is out 6 to 8 weeks. Obviously a big blow. He is one of the leaders of the defense and has been playing really well this year along with last year too. This isn't good, especially at linebacker. I mean, this defense is just absolutely obliterated injury wise. I mean, Jalen Reeves Maven is on IR. He should come back in the regular season. Derek Barnes is out for the season. That's just in the linebacking core, and then all the edge defenders, Hutchinson, uh, not Pascal Davenport, Kaminsky, like all of these guys are on IR, and I don't know. I mean, he'll likely be back for the playoffs, but it's a big blow for sure. And yeah, they signed
Oh yeah. I mean this Lions team, this Lions defense is almost he is the quarterback of this Lions
yeah,
defense, and I think that's what's probably going to be the worst. But honestly, I think this is a big place for Jack Campbell to step up,
Yeah.
and I think this is where he can show that leadership presence
Hmm.
in this defense, and it's time for him to buck up.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. They signed David Long to the practice squad, which is weird. I mean, for those of you who don't know, David Long was a pretty good linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. He signed with the Miami Dolphins, a pretty decent sized deal, and is awesome. He's an awesome run defender. And this year, he just wasn't good. They got a new defensive coordinator, and he gets cut. And he last week, and he just got signed to the practice squad. I wouldn't expect to see him this week, but it's an interesting name to watch because I mean this is a legit NFL starter. So interested to see what
Well,
can
yeah,
happen.
I looked him up and on reference, and I've never heard of him. When you sent me his name, I'm like, who? But I saw that he had 100 tackles 2 seasons ago. I think he had 2 picks in 2 different seasons. He's a little undersized, but again, I think he can play a good impact on the run game, especially the outside run game since he's an outside linebacker. And with his stature, I think he can get low on a lot of those guys and just drag them into the ground.
Yeah, I mean I think this is a regime, a coaching staff that they care about size, but if you play bigger than your size, then they don't care. Then they don't
Yep.
care as much. I mean, I mean, a guy we're going to talk about, Malcolm Rodriguez. Malcolm Rodriguez fell. I think he was a 6 round pick because he was only like 6 feet,
Hmm.
5'11", not a very big guy. But I mean, been a for a 6 round pick. Rodrigo was a out of the park
I
home
believe
run.
so.
Yeah, which is leads me to my guy that I think is going to be the biggest impact, like potential impact player, and that's Malcolm Rodriguez. He's been playing a little bit more, especially with Barnes out and Jalen Reeves may have been out, and he's just a solid player. I wouldn't not going to expect him to, like light the world on fire, but he's a very solid player. He's an intelligent player. He knows where he needs to be
Yeah.
on certain plays, and I'm just thankful that the Lions have like 5 linebackers. I had coming into the season. They had like 5 outside linebackers that you could trust
Yes.
playing defense. So, all right, another transaction.
Yes.
Brodric Martin activated from IR. Um, this is an interesting one. He got injured in the preseason. I can't exactly
Yeah.
remember what his injury was, but what do you think his role is going to be moving forward? Like, what percentage of snaps do you think he's going to play? What role do you think he's going to play?
I mean, if I were to bet, I mean, he might play. I don't even know if he's going to play this next game because I don't know if Campbell's usually that guy who throws guys in right after coming off of IR. But I think they'll gradually bring him in because, I think with this defensive line, you have Onzarike who's really owning that interior line with Reader as well as Aleem. And
Hmm.
I think this pass rush is starting to get so much pressure up the middle. And again, I'll bring that up when we play the Colts, but I think not that Martin's not going to have a role at all, but I think they'll gradually put him in. I think maybe the next game he plays maybe 10, 15 snaps just to get him in, try to get some pressure, not push him too hard. But I think for moving forward, I think they want to develop him like Levi because Levi he had a few injuries, early on in his career. We got a football signed by him, so we love him.
Yes, sir.
But I think when we talk about Levi, um, he's shown so much improvement. So I think for me, I'm looking at that out of Broderick.
Yeah. Yes, I'm interested to see. I mean, I don't think he plays a ton of snaps. He's a nose tackle, and we obviously have DJ Reader. He's one of the best nose tackles in the NFL. But Reader doesn't play not even like 75% of the snaps just because how big he is. So, especially with Kyle Pecco getting injured, another defensive impact player that got injured, he could replace that role. And then, yeah, I'm not expecting much out of him, and I don't think we should. I mean, he's playing in a reserve role behind two of the best defensive tackles in the NFL and DJ Reader and Ali McNeil. So yeah, I'm interested to see. Obviously, I want to see growth from him, but even if he's just a solid run defender, I think that's a win. Anything else to add?
Absolutely. Again, I think with these just types of injuries early on in your career, you just want to see them at least have a little bit of consistency in the run game and maybe bring some pressure up the middle. But again, if you're coming off of an injury like this when you're on IR, you just want to see growth.
Yeah, I agree. All right, back to not another great injury news. Ifeatu Melifonwu, he was in the evaluation window, in his 21-day evaluation window, coming off of IR, injures his finger. Campbell didn't disclose exactly what happened, but they activated him off IR just to put him back on, which I don't think I've ever seen before. Just weird, but I, it sucks. I
Yeah,
mean, he's forever a Detroit legend because of that interception against Minnesota to clinch the NFC North. And I mean, down the stretch last year, he was amazing. I mean, he was averaging like a turnover a game, it seemed like. And it just sucks. He's made of glass.
yeah, yeah.
I told you that he's made of glass. It just sucks. Do you, do you think he even plays this season? I mean, I, I don't know.
If he's on IR like this, I don't know, to be honest. Maybe he could get into the playoffs, but to be honest, I don't think they're going to press it because, again, knowing Campbell, he's probably going to be a little more lenient on injuries, and we have this position covered right now. So, fortunately, we don't need
Yeah,
him, but I wish to see him on the field again
yeah.
because I love seeing this guy play.
Yeah, me too. I was excited that he was coming off of IR when, not that I was excited that Anzalone got hurt, but I thought it was decent timing that those two switched because he can play as like a linebacker type role. He's a big guy. I think he's like 6'3". He's big for a safety. And yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
thought that could have
yeah.
mitigated the loss of Anzalone a little bit, and he could be in those blitz packages. But yeah, I don't know if I'm not expecting to have him for the rest of the year. I mean, if he can play, that's awesome. Obviously, he's an impact player when he's on the field, but can't really rely on him. And the last thing is do you think there's any chance that he's re-signed after this year?
Honestly, if it's not, this position safety, it's not a big need. We have two of the best safeties in the NFL. I don't think so personally because again, I think Brad is one of those guys who's going to go out and get pieces from the trap, and you know, I think he's going to be able to find someone who can fill in the backup role in the sixth, seventh round.
Yeah, yeah. The one thing that I think is that he's been injured so often that I mean he's just going to get a minimum contract, similar to what like Emmanuel Mosley got. Um,
Yeah.
Emmanuel Mosley got, but like I don't know, maybe you just sign him and do the same with Marcus Davenport. Just sign them and just wait for the playoffs to play them so they don't have to get hurt. Because I mean I don't think they're anyone else is breaking the door
I,
down to sign
I
those guys.
I hope they sign him, but again, I just don't know. I don't know based off of this injury history right now, but I don't think it's looking too good. Hopefully,
Yeah,
though, they can figure something out.
Brad Holmes loves injured players though, so that's one thing I guess. All right, let's switch to the bigger scope of the NFL. As I mentioned earlier, and as sure as mostly everyone knows, the Buffalo Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Lions are pretty
Oh
much the
yeah.
unanimous number one team in every power ranking in the betting markets and everything. Specifically in the NFC, who do you think the biggest threat is to the Lions?
I mean, right now the biggest threat to me is definitely the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah,
I mean, right now they're just dominant right now, and it's not Lions dominant, but it's almost getting there because Saquon is just on another level. I mean, I've heard an actual sports commentator talk about him winning the MVP. Now that's not going to happen, but even for a running back to be brought up in that conversation with possibly Derrick Henry getting something like that, it's going to be a scary team to play,
yeah,
especially when they have such a great defense right now. I mean, their rookie corners and DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, that they're just so freaking good right now. And
Yeah.
I just think that if the Lions were to play them, they would have a fit a little bit. But I think we could overcome them. But
Yeah.
it's just a little, it's
Yeah.
just a little bit much right now for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I agree. It was a rough that Thursday night game against Washington. It didn't start out very well. They were trailing, and then they just completely took over. I think that might be more of a testament to
Yeah,
Washington not being really ready to compete like that. I think Washington's a playoff team and could get frisky, but I don't know. It's just like okay, so like the Eagles on paper scare the crap out of me. However, because of their coach, I like
yeah,
I mean I still think they're the biggest threat. And I'm not saying that the Lions would beat them like 50-10 if they played them. Like I think it wouldn't be a blowout, but like I'm not necessarily even saying the Lions would win for sure. I'm just saying that like just when you look at the coaching difference between these two teams, I think that's what sets it apart because I think these are the two best rosters in the NFL. But I mean,
for sure.
I
Hmm.
can't trust Nick Sirianni, and I don't know. I mean, they could look good. It's just like they could finish the season undefeated, or they could absolutely fall apart and only win two more games. I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Oh yeah, I mean Sirianni right now, he's just one of those coaches. Like I can't see him possibly taking this team to win a Super Bowl just
Yeah.
because I think he shoots himself in the foot way too much.
Yep. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think this is why the Eagles have been misplaced in a lot of ways for the past probably season and a half.
Yeah. Yep. But like I said, I mean, their talent is or their roster is unbelievably talented. I remember telling you last year because when the Lions won, they played the winner of the Bucks and the Eagles. That I would rather have the Bucks win, even though I think the Bucks are a better team right now. Because if the Eagles somehow picked it up and got it going, I mean, they're Super Bowl contenders. So, like I said, I mean, it's hard to tell. I don't know what Eagles team that the Lions are gonna if they face them in the playoffs, which team it's going to be. But I mean, they're a superbly talented team for sure. Um, what about the biggest threat in the NFL?
Um, I'm not gonna say I'm first off, I'm gonna say it's the Bills, but it's not because they beat the Chiefs. I even think before they beat the Chiefs, even if they didn't beat the Chiefs, I would have said the Bills. I mean, their defense is a great defense, but their offense scares me.
Yeah,
Like I think with the Chiefs, I mean, that would be a great matchup because I think our offense could offset their defense, and their defense might be able to offset our offense. But I just think our defense right now could possibly stop these guys. I mean, we stopped them last year in the first game, but for me, I really don't want to see what's going to happen. When Josh Allen takes the field against us, I think it's going to be really. I think it's going to be probably the toughest test that we're going to face this whole year. I really think that we're going to do well against their defense because our offense is so dominant. But man, I think Josh Allen's going to be tough to contain.
yeah, yeah. What do we have? Like 4 more weeks, 3 more weeks until we play them. That's
Yep.
in Detroit, thankfully. So you don't have to deal with a fluky
Yeah.
snow game in Buffalo. But
And we're wearing
yeah.
the black set day too. Motor City
Oh,
Muscle.
really? I didn't see that. I'm excited because those are. I mean,
Yep.
when we played the Seahawks, I couldn't stop staring at them. They were so awesome. Even my friend who was a Seahawks fan was like, "Those are amazing." Um, yeah,
Oh yeah.
I feel like you need to be taught. You have to separate the Bills and the Chiefs. Like you have to separate the Chiefs from the rest of the NFL just because of what they can do in the playoffs. Like I think the Bills are a better team than them, and if I were to play them in the regular season, I would rather not I would rather face the Chiefs than the Bills. However, in the playoffs, the Chiefs are just a completely different animal. I mean, they that last year was the worst regular season Chiefs team that we've seen in the Mahomes era, and they
We've
won a
seen
Super
that
Bowl.
out of these past few years. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and like I mean, I guess the I mean, like if we see the Bills in the Super Bowl, that means that if we make it to the Super Bowl and we see the Bills, I mean, that means that the Bills beat the Chiefs, which I just like, I can't process that happening. Like, it's almost like I don't want to like, I'm not trying to like talk down on the Bills because I think they're better, but like, I just like, I don't know if we need to worry about the Bills in the like, in a potential Super Bowl matchup because I don't see them beating the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs just, they have their number every single year
Honestly,
in the playoffs.
I think the Chiefs just seem like such a threat because for the past few years, yes, they are the best team by far in the playoffs in the AFC. But with the way Mahomes is playing right now, I can't see that happening this year.
Yeah.
Like being
Yeah.
such a dominant team like they've been. I
Yeah.
mean, not that Mahomes can't turn it around. My fantasy quarterback in Dynasty, which unfortunately he has been dropping the ball a bit lately, but I think, I think with the Chiefs, if Mahomes can finally step back into his MVP self, then I'd be more scared of him. But
Yeah.
right now, with the way Josh Allen's playing, I mean, heck, he didn't even throw an interception for the first 10
Yeah.
games,
It was a while. Yeah. I remember his
10
first
9
one was
games,
against
something like that.
Seattle. It's
And
probably like, I think it was 8 games or something like that.
yeah, I mean, that was the main criticism on Allen is that he would just be throwing picks all the time. But I think this year he's been a little more honed in on his offense, which is amazing since he has probably the worst wide receiving core he's had in his entire career.
Yeah.
But he's doing it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, like I said, it's a separate conversation of the playoffs, but right now the Bills, both those teams. I mean, I'm more, I would be more worried playing the Bills or the Chiefs than any team in the NFC or the Ravens, to be honest. Luckily the Lions are in the NFC, and the NFC is very weak right now. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, for
the
sure.
Eagles. To go back to the NFC, the Eagles are
Yeah,
really the only team that I'm like worried about. Like, I mean, the Packers are probably two or three, or the second team that I'm worried about. But like, I just think the Lions are better than them, and then the Niners are their own discussion because like if they turn it on, I think they are but I think they're the second best team in the NFC. But who knows? Who knows? I mean, I think they're last place in the NFC West right now, which is crazy. But yeah. All right, moving
yeah.
on to the Colts. It is a 1 o'clock game on Fox. This is an interesting game for sure. Just interesting team to play. I
Mhm.
mean, I've voiced my thoughts to you about how the
Potential
Colts,
trap game.
yeah, how the Colts handled the Anthony Richardson situation. For those of you who don't know, they benched him and said they were done with him and starting Joe Flacco. They were done with him for the season. And Joe Flacco plays 2 games. He looks like you'd expect Joe Flacco to look, and the and the Colts say psych and put Richardson back in. Um, and they're coming off a comeback victory to the against the Jets. And yeah, what's your what are you looking for in this game, I guess? What are you looking for, a potential matchup or whatever it is?
Well, for me, I did a little research. So the Ryan Kelly, the
Hmm.
starting center
Yeah.
for the Colts, is going to be out this week.
Oh, I didn't
So
know
I
that.
fully expect this pass rush to go up the middle. I really want this pass rush to finally push through. And this is not my wild prediction, but I think they could potentially have 4 sacks in this
Yeah.
game. And it's not that, Richardson can't get away, but I just think Richardson mostly goes up the middle whenever he's going to scramble, and I think our defense can snuff that out if they allow themselves to.
Yeah.
But that's I just want that to break through this week so
Yeah.
badly.
So Olim McNeil propaganda right there with Ryan Kelly being out. Hopefully we get a big game from him because he's been awesome
Yeah.
this year. The biggest thing I'm looking
Oh
at
yeah.
how the Lions are going to handle Anthony Richardson's mobility. Um, this team, this team's in the past, they've not been able to handle mobile quarterbacks. Justin Fields went nuclear on them every time they played, and just because he could run the
Yeah.
ball. Um, Alex Anzalone being out is a bigger is a not great for this game because he's an athletic enough linebacker that can contain Richardson at least a little bit. Um, Thankfully this year, I mean, the really only mobile guy that they played was Kyler Murray, and they handled him pretty well. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm curious to see how this defense handles Richardson because this is the first like run first quarterback that they're playing this year. In my opinion.
Oh yeah. I
And it,
mean, I think when we went up against Kyler, I don't know how many times he ran, but it wasn't like that many.
yeah,
Richardson last week, I think he ran 10 times. So that's a guy that going into the game that you're going to have to contain. And I think Dan knows that. And I think Aaron Glenn knows that. So I think they've prepared. But again, Lions teams, Campbell teams have passed. We've let these quarterbacks just run all over us. So hopefully, again, this week, like I said, if we can just get up the middle and we can snuff those gaps up, we can finally put an end to Richardson reign on the ground.
yeah. That would be cool, and especially because Richardson is. I mean, I love Anthony Richardson. I loved him coming out of the draft, but he's a turnover machine, and this defense is our
Yeah.
takeaway machines. This defense is takes away the ball a lot, and I mean, Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph in that secondary. Um, they are both in top of the league in picks, and if Richardson likes to air it out, and if he tries and pushes the ball where he shouldn't, I think the safeties are going to punish him, and in the form of takeaways, in the form of interceptions. So,
Yeah.
um,
Oh yeah.
one another matchup that I'm looking at is this is on a bigger scale, but it's the Lions defense against the Colts offense, or the Lions offensive against the Colts defense. The Colts do not have a good defense at all. I saw that. I'm not sure
No.
what this was measured or how this was measured, but the Colts they have like the 28th ranked pass defense and the 26th ranked rush defense. Their outside corners
I wouldn't be
are
surprised.
Yeah, their outside corners are Jalen Jones and Samuel Womack. Don't feel bad if you don't know those guys. Those shouldn't be your starting
No.
corners on a legit defense. Um, yeah, I think this is another. I think this is another game where the Lions I'm not saying it's to the extent of like 50 points or a 40-point victory, but I think regardless of what happens on defense, I think the Lions eat like again this week on the offense side of the ball with how weak the Colts defense is, especially the run defense. I mean, when Lions play bad run defenses, oof, like they're just rotating Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery out, and they're running for 200 yards a game. Like, yeah, I'm excited to see how they exploit this defense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And I looked at some of the highlights against the Jets, and I think the biggest thing about this defensive front is just they let the opposing O line bully them, and this
Yeah,
is not what you want
yeah,
if you're going to play against the
yeah,
Lions. Because again, I think this is possibly one of the best O lines ever assembled of
yeah,
any team in NFL history. And if you're going to go against them, you got to get your crap together. And in regards to the pass offense, or the pass defense, I think they can possibly get to Goff in some way because Latu is looking really good out there, but
yeah,
it's going to be few and far between for pass rush attempts or pass rush uh, chances at getting Goff.
yeah. Yep. I I do think that the Colts offense will I think they'll have a decent day, especially compared to how other offenses have performed on the Lions. But yeah, I do think it is a trap game. This is much more of a trap game than the Jaguars were just because I mean the game was like I never say this, but that game was over when they stepped on the field for warm-ups. Like the Jags were never winning that game with Mac Jones. And I mean that belief was confirmed when Mac Jones. I mean, he I saw he attempted 10 passes past or for 10 or more yards, and one of them was completed, and that was to Kirby Joseph. So I think Anthony Richardson, it's a lot more of a it's a lot more of a challenge with Anthony Richardson, especially because I mean he excels in airing the ball out deep. Um, all right, one prediction that I have
Oh
about this
yeah,
game.
and last game against the Jets, he did really well. I mean, last game against the Jets, Richardson did really well.
Yeah,
And not that he was like a game wrecker, but he was throwing good ball. He got Adonai Mitchell on a terrific catch.
yep,
So and I think he had Pierce down the line too.
yeah. Pierce has had a really good
I
year.
think he has a good chance at doing well.
Yeah, but it was the Jets, so I mean, they're not the defense that
Yeah,
they used to be. So
Aaron's a little washed.
yes, yeah, and Sauce Gardner it looks a little washed too. Turns out Aiden
Yeah,
Hutchinson might be the best. It was probably the best player to come out of that draft class. Um, all right,
yeah.
a score prediction, or just not a score prediction, but one prediction that I have about this game that doesn't have to do with the score. I believe that Jameson Williams will have over 100 yards and a touchdown. Um, I don't know. I mean, that could be on like literally two receptions. It's JMO. Who knows? I'm not going to try and mess with the reception prop, but like I said, these corners are weak. And one thing, when going back and looking at games that JMO has gone off in, he exploits bad corners, or just not good corners. Not necessarily bad, but I mean, like he's so fast that if a corner makes a wrong read and gets a step behind him, it's over. I mean, you saw it against Jacksonville. Jacksonville didn't have good corners, and JMO had well over 100 yards, I believe. But yeah, I think with these corners,
Yeah,
I think he's going to exploit them, and um, yeah, I think he's going to have a big game. I think this is going to be a spot where he has a really good game because he's playing against inferior corners.
for sure. And that play that they ran JMO on this past weekend, that long touchdown, that was the same play that they ran against Washington, or not Washington, Seattle.
Hmm.
So
That crosser
I
route, yeah,
think when you can again when they can play call and scheme these plays perfectly, there's no limit to what JMO can do.
yeah, yeah. What do you have? What's your prediction?
My prediction this game is both Monty and Gibbs combined for over 200 rushing yards.
Yeah,
And I think it's just a testament to how terrible this D line is. It's not good. I've watched this D line. They're very easily manipulated by their opposing offensive line. They always give into the holes. They don't really rush against them. I and these linebackers too. They get to the second level and they're just not very. They're not elusive enough to get to the running backs. So
yeah,
I think this is the possibility of a blow up game for Monty and Gibbs.
yeah. I mean, it'd be back to back blow up games because I believe both of them went over 100 yards last week. But yeah, I agree with you. I did like the Colts run defense isn't good, and like I said, this team punishes bad run defenses. They punish good run defenses, so they have a field day with the bad ones. Um,
Yeah.
how do you think the defense is going to do? How do you think the defense is going to handle Richardson?
Um, how I think they're going to handle them, I think they're going to try to scheme up Smith in this game. I really think Smith gets a sack or two because I really think that they can pass rush up the middle. Um, Unfortunately, Anthony Richardson, probably one of the fastest quarterbacks in the
Yeah, it's
NFL.
hard to catch
So
him.
I think he could possibly, yeah, he's going to be able to get out of the pocket. So another possible great game could be from Campbell. I think this is a good spot for Jack Campbell to get out of his comfort zone and start getting out of that, you know, just pursuit for the run up the middle and just go out in the flat and start blowing guys up. No diddy.
All right. Um, yeah, I think Campbell is a Campbell is an impact player in this game because I mean, like sometimes I forget this. Jack Campbell is a white guy with a receding hairline from Iowa. However, he is one of the greatest. He had one of the best combines ever for linebacker. He is absurdly athletic. I feel like I
Yeah.
forget this all the time just because what he looks like and his background and all that stuff. But I mean, I that's like if we're gonna have any linebacker, I know that the Lions don't really do QB spies, but if you have one guy kind of watching Richardson, I think Jack Campbell is that guy because I think he's the one guy in the
Hmm.
front seven who could catch up with him.
Again, he has great pursuit up the middle, and
Yeah.
I think this is an opportunity to show his pursuit in the flat.
Yeah. All right. Score prediction. Do you want to go first? What's your score prediction?
I have this game ending 33-17 in
All right.
favor of the Lions.
Wow.
Again, this is a game that this offense can really, they can do some damage in.
Mhm.
I'm not going to, straight up say that they're going to go for 40, but I think this is a game where they could go for 40 very easily. I'm just being a little generous on the Colts score. I think our defense can hold them within 10, to be honest. But
A little
um,
generous. You have
I
us winning
think
by
if
16 points.
I mean, that just shows you how good this
I know.
team
I
is.
know.
I,
Yeah.
I, I think with with this defense, I just don't know how they're going to handle Richardson at the end of the day. I hope they get pressure up the middle, but he can do some damage. I think against this team if he knows what to do. So I'm kind of just giving the best score for what I think the Colts are going to do, and I'm giving the worst score for what the Lions are going to do. And it's funny that it's a 16-point difference.
Yeah. I yeah, I can't really argue with like 33. I mean, 33 points to at this point for the Lions. That's just like another day in the office. It feels like it's, I mean, they've had like 5 games where they've gone over 40, 4 or 5 games. So, yeah, I mean, as absurd as it sounds, it's not absolutely ridiculous. I have a similar score. I have the Lions winning 30-20. Um, yeah, like I said, I think the Colts defense is going to do, or the Colts offense is going to do better than teams have previously. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I just it's like 30-20. That was like my compromise for like a tighter score, I guess, which is absurd because they're winning by 10 points. But yeah, I mean this can be 100% a trap game, but I don't know if Anthony Richardson is just like a polished and mature enough passer to really pick apart the Lions. One thing that I would like to add about the defense actually is that I hope that they make Richardson throw to short and intermediate and don't give him like drop Kirby back into coverage because I feel like Richardson is a quarterback where even if the deep ball isn't there, if like he's gonna throw it, he loves throwing it downfield, and like I said, we could the Lions can punish him that way and give him he's going to get bored. He's a young quarterback with a big arm. He's going to get bored with underneath passes. Encourage him to throw deep, make him want to throw deep, and then like I said, then take the ball away and flip the field.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thought. I mean, yeah, I think with Richardson, you know, I think we've seen a lot from Will Levis this year of the absolute bombastic.
Yeah,
Um, and last week, Anthony Richardson had one of those plays. He had like he threw, I think he shoveled like threw a shovel pass out of a
yeah,
sack
yeah.
to
I
one of his
saw it. It
running
was
backs,
bad. Yeah.
and like he got lucky. Like
Hmm.
he got lucky that he ended up catching that ball. So if he if we can just manage that deep ball game, we could possibly end up conjuring up some of those plays.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully they can do something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have Lions 33-17, I have Lions 30-20. Um, yeah, I think that's about realistic. I think the line is 7.5. So we're a little higher, but I mean,
That's going to get
but
blown up.
yeah, but like the line was 14 last week, like 14. So, and we saw that game turned up. So, I mean, Vegas can't make the lines too big, or else no one's gonna bet on them. But yeah,
Uh,
like I said, I feel decently confident about this game just because I don't think Richardson. is, as like a polished enough passer to really pick apart the Lions. You have anything else to add about this game?
I just can't wait to see our offense do what they've been doing for the past few weeks
Yeah.
and past season because um, I really do want to see how they can contain Richardson because I think down the line, again, Josh Allen is one of these guys who can get out of the pocket and, just screw your off or screw your
Yeah.
defense up. So
Yeah.
I really want to that's probably my biggest thing to see how they what they do in this game is just how they handle Richardson. But I I think this is going to be a good game. Every game is a good game when you're watching the Detroit Lions right
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
Fortunately,
And another thing is we got Caleb Williams next week on Thanksgiving too. That's a guy who hasn't had a great start to the season, but I mean he can make something out of nothing. That was his whole MO coming out of
you want to share
college.
my preseason prediction?
I forgot what it was. You share it.
Well, I predicted in the preseason, or when we were making our own predictions in the preseason, that Caleb Williams was going to get benched in the Thanksgiving game. So
Oh, I
it's
mean,
looking a little more realistic. I mean, Bajan isn't Bajan starting or something like that?
no,
Or I don't know.
no.
I think they said
Yeah,
they
the
were
players.
contemplating it
There
though.
were
Like
like
I
players that wanted him to start. I don't know why they do that, but
okay,
whatever. Either way, I mean,
but I'm
yeah.
just saying Caleb throws two picks to Kirby and Branch, maybe a one to Terrion. You kick him out of the game.
I don't
I
know.
mean, I like that. I like that prospect.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I mean that could be your prediction next week. All right. I think this is
Yeah.
going to wrap up the Jaguars review and the Colts preview. We will be back next week with the review of the Colts game. Hopefully, another win. We move to 10-1 maybe, and then it's a short week, and we play the Bears on Thanksgiving. We'll have a preview for that as well. Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, we'll see you guys next week.